Yo, how's it going? So we got some real life werewolf stories. This is a video by the Y Files. I am super hyped. I can't wait. Let's just get into it. Oh crap. Okay, now we're good.
The story always starts the same way. On the side of the road, in a backyard, or in a parking lot, a large dog hovers over a dead animal quietly eating. As you approach, the dog looks up, its eyes shining in the dark. As you move closer, the dog stands up on its hind legs. It's well over 7 feet tall. It has the body of a man, but the head of a dog or a wolf. Some
Damn.
call them werewolves.
I would have not gotten even close to that. I would have just, like I don't even get close to a dog that's off a leash, let alone like be in the forest or somewhere in like nature and just get close to an animal that has his eyes glowing. I will not trust it. I have to go. I will, as soon as I see some glowing eyes, that's my cue. That's my cue to go. Like, I don't know how some people are this brave.
Others call them dogmen. Whatever they are, they've been terrifying people for hundreds of years. In the past, it's been easy to dismiss these sightings as mistakes or superstitions. But these creatures are not so easy to dismiss anymore, because now we have pictures.
All right.
Since the early 19th century, and perhaps even before, there have been stories of a terrifying creature lurking in the dark woods of northern Michigan. It looks like a large black dog, but then it rears up on its hind legs and stands over 7 feet tall. It has the head of a canine with icy blue eyes that shimmer in the dark. It has the body of a man covered in fur. It howls
That's
like
a cool
wolf,
picture.
though the sound has been said to be closer to a scream than a howl. These stories existed as part of a myth that circulated around Michigan and Wisconsin for years, but the myth went mainstream in 1987. Jack O'Malley and Steve Cook worked at WTCM Radio in Michigan. As part of an April Fool's Day prank, they wrote a song called The Legend. And the legend tells the story of a race of half-human, half-dog hybrids that appear every 10 years and stalk through the dark woods of northern Michigan. The song warned listeners that these dogmen were due to appear this year.
Doesn't that sound like Jeepers Creepers or maybe even It? That's kind of cool. I like to hear that. That's
And
pretty
then the
dope.
song ended ominously.
And somewhere in the Northwoods darkness, a creature walks upright. And the best advice you may ever get
Is Run?
is don't go out at night.
The reaction Cook and O'Malley got was
That's
unexpected.
a horror. I mean, that's good
They were
advice, I
hoping to
guess.
have fun and spook the listeners a little bit. Then the phone lines lit up. The first call was from an elderly man who said he was chilled to the bone when he heard the song because he had seen a similar creature several years earlier, and that opened the floodgates. Calls began pouring in with people telling their own stories about encounters with the dogman. The
Okay.
legend went back over 100 years. In 1887, lumberjacks in the area came across what they thought was a large dog until it stood up, screeched at them, and ran into the woods. In 1857,
Nah, bro.
a
Some
letter
people are
described
brave.
a frightening creature that stood up like a man yet bore the face of a gray wolf. A French fur trader's diary was found dated 1804. In it, he described seeing a loup-garou, the French word for werewolf. Even Native American legends talk about a shapeshifter, a man who could transform into a wolf. And there's documentation of an actual sheriff's investigation responding to a local sighting of a dogman. Still, these were all stories. But now that the legend of the dogman was front and center in the public's mind, more reliable witnesses would come forward, and they would bring proof.
Hey, let's go.
In 1961, a night watchman was working his shift at a factory near the Haymarsh in Michigan. One of the job perks was the watchman and his family could live on a house on the property. The front porch of the house made it easy for him to keep an eye on things. The watchman made his rounds and headed back to the porch to sit, relax, and have a cup of coffee.
Oh,
This was a
W
remote
coffee.
area and the night was passing uneventfully. The sound of crickets and night birds filled the air. Then, just after 3 a.m., the crickets and birds suddenly stopped. There was only silence. It was so abrupt that the watchman started to feel uneasy. Then, at the edge of the property,
Nothing feels more uneasy when like life is going on and then out of nowhere just immediately just silence, quiet. It just feels so uneasy. That's happened to me a couple times. Unless it's like in the daytime where like, you're taking a nice walk and everything just gets quiet. It's so nice and peaceful. But if it's in the dark, bro, your spidey senses are going off the charts. It's like something has to be around here that's like making everything quiet. Like your spidey just senses just go off the
He
charts.
heard the distinctive sound of a chain link fence rattling. At this late hour and such a remote location, this wasn't an accident. This was an intruder. The watchman drew his gun and waited.
Woo,
Then he
let's
noticed
go.
that the intruder wasn't a man. It was something much bigger. He said it appeared to be covered in brown-gray hair. It was tall and had broad shoulders. It alternated between walking on 4 legs and then standing up on 2. It was looking for something in the driveway.
Hey man, it don't matter if it's a man or a beast, bro. If I got it on me and you're on my property and I feel threatened, gotta let off. You just gotta blow the fireworks, you know.
The watchman quietly went into his house and grabbed a Kodak Signet 35mm camera. As the watchman stepped back onto his porch, the creature walked slowly along the driveway directly under the lights. The watchman adjusted the camera for a long exposure and held it as still as he possibly could and took this picture. I ran the image through AI to enhance it. After this photo was taken,
It just looks like a blob. I can't tell where the head is, honestly. I'm not gonna cap. I ain't gonna pretend here like I do. Just gonna do this. Hit that. Put that. Hit this. Divine shield. I mean, you can triple with any. That's pretty good. Ooh, that's pretty good. I don't. But anyway, back to. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see a head. It's like it just looks like a blob. I can't. I wish it was a little more detailed. It looks blurry. Is this the head or is this the head? That's my question. You know what? Legs, arms, obviously, and that's the head. It has to be the head.
the creature went back down on all 4s and walked out into the woods. And though he wouldn't explain why until years later, the watchman didn't let his children play outside after dark. Another story happened
Obviously.
in 1987 in Sparta.
This is Sparta.
I knew that was coming.
Hey, I'm reliable.
Sparta, Michigan, 1987, just a few miles north of Grand Rapids. 2 young men were heading to a cabin for a weekend of hunting and fishing. They were on a secluded road with no lights, so it was very dark. And about 100 yards ahead, the car's headlights caught something that made both men jump. It looked like a human covered in gray fur. As they drove closer and then passed, they got a good look at it. It was the size of a tall man. It stood on 2 legs, had a wolf-like face, and was covered in gray fur. It even raised its arms and snarled at them as they drove by. Reed City, Michigan,
Rawr.
1993. Courtney was sneaking a cigarette behind her parents' home when she saw movement near a barn that was on the property.
Okay.
About 50 feet from the barn, she saw what looked like a large dog or wolf, but couldn't really tell what it was. Then it turned around, looked at her, and stood up on 2 legs. It was over 6 feet tall, covered in dark fur, and had a dog-like face with long nose and pointed ears. And there would be more sightings over the years in the same area. 1994 in Watersmeet, 2000.
Let's take a look back at that. All right. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I like how I can actually see the head and the body. That's pretty good. It could be just like an optical illusion.
More
though.
sightings
I'm not
over the
gonna lie.
years in the same area. 1994 in Watersmeet, 2001 in Alpena. And all witnesses reported the same creature. Face of a canine that stood on 2 legs and was over 6 or 7 feet tall. Bigger than any dog or wolf.
I mean, how did the werewolves get here? You know, that's a good
But
question.
nobody really knew how big the creature was until 2007 when an eyewitness took a picture of its footprint.
Ooh.
Now, for a strange story out of rural Coffee County, residents there say they've heard unusual animal sounds at night, and several ATV riders say they've seen unusual-looking creatures in the distance.
I can just say this, something's going on in the woods.
Recently, the 2 men have received reports from ATV riders of distant sightings of an unusual animal, but it didn't sound like a coyote.
Hey, there's something strange. There's some knocking going on. We hear some screeches. They're not dogs. They're not coyotes.
I don't know why, but this guy looks like a liar to me. He looks like he's capping. Joe Blackburn. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't trust Joe. Joe looks like he's capping. I feel like he just wants the cameras on him.
Creature in the woods.
The witness of this next sighting is a prominent Michigan politician and wants to remain anonymous. In 2007, he was driving from Benzonia to Traverse City.
I don't know why, but that kind of reminded me when like the president of Mexico, um, didn't he tweet like proof of a gnome? Never in the history of politicians has there ever been such a baffling tweet. I'm pretty sure. Like, that's hilarious. All I'm waiting for is now for like fucking Kim Jong Un to come out with a random tweet and say, "Yo, I just saw a witch in the air. She was flying that way." That'd be the.
He was taking the scenic
Come on.
route down
I'm just
Cinder
waiting for
Road,
some more
a
of
few
that.
miles outside the town of Bendon. In the distance, he saw a pair of eyes shining in the dark. And at
Ooh.
first he thought it was a deer, but as he got closer, he realized it was too big to be a deer. As he approached, he slowed down to 30 miles an hour and was about 200 feet from the creature.
I'm speeding up. I'm running it over. I'm sorry. If it's an endangered species, man, I'm in danger too. You know, so one of us has to go.
Which didn't move. He described it as a large wolf, up on two legs,
Oh, keep that.
standing near a dead deer. It was well over 6 feet tall and covered in dark fur. At that point, still a good distance away, he stopped the car to take a look. It didn't move, so he thought it could be a giant stuffed animal, someone playing a joke.
It wasn't a joke, was it?
Nope. Before he could finish his next thought,
That's
the
just a dumb
creature
thing to
dropped
say.
down on all four legs, sprinted across the road, and disappeared into the woods.
Oof.
The man was frozen in his seat for a full minute before he summoned the courage to investigate. He grabbed his flashlight and approached the dead deer. There was no way he was going to follow the thing into the woods, but he
Why
wanted
would
to
you?
see if it left any tracks. It did.
Oh, nice.
The man was familiar with animal tracks and said it looked like a wolf print, but was bigger than any wolf print he'd ever seen. Luckily, he had his digital camera with him. He dropped a shotgun shell in the print for size reference. A shotgun shell is between 2 and 3 inches long, depending on the gauge and the load. So this footprint could be 10 or 12 inches long, maybe bigger. When interviewed, the man said he was familiar
Oh,
with the
okay.
song on the radio
I don't know
and
nothing
the
about
local legend,
footprints.
but always thought they were just entertaining stories. After this incident, he realized the stories were real, and he never drove on that road again.
Of course.
This
You never catch me on that
is
road.
a strange-like, human-like, part creature seen in Texas.
So that's at the Amarillo Zoo, and they came across this weird image while looking at some security footage recently. It was captured in the middle of the night. It was back in May, and the city of Amarillo wants your help in identifying.
That doesn't look
Most
crazy
Michigan dogman sightings happen in Michigan.
Oh, do they? That's some quality investigative journalism right there.
Shut up. But this particular cryptid has the ability to cross state lines. Just to
Ooh.
the west of northern Michigan is Wisconsin. This area, also densely wooded, has its own local legend
though. What if there's more than one? You know?
that's awfully similar to the Michigan Dogman, and it's called the Beast of Bray Road. In the 1990s, residents of Walworth
Damn,
County
I lost
reported
big
seeing
time
a
for this.
humanoid werewolf stalking a road outside of town. It's described as being
hate
between
to see
6
it.
and 7 feet tall, covered in dark fur with a head resembling a wolf or a bear. And it's been seen moving on 2 legs and on 4.
Man,
the creature
bear,
was
pig.
covered in newspapers, in books, documentaries, even TV shows. There were so many reports about the beast that local reporter Linda Godfrey was assigned to cover the story. Now, at
Nice.
first she was skeptical, but later she believed the witnesses were telling the truth. What makes this cryptid different than the Michigan Dogman is its aggression. Doris Gibson was driving along Bray late one night when she felt a thump. Thinking she hit something, she got out to investigate. Then the beast leapt out of the darkness and chased her back to her car. Then it scraped the trunk of her car, leaving deep scratch marks before she drove away. And many of these sightings would have been just part of a hazy legend, if not for Linda Godfrey's reporting. In 2018, this blurry photo was taken by Danny Morgan just outside Elkhorn, Wisconsin.
What? That's not it. That definitely ain't it. I could call that more of a hobbit. But a werewolf? Nah, bro, you're tripping.
He said he saw the creature not once, but twice in a month.
That's a hobbit.
Morgan said it was over 7 feet tall, brown, and hairy.
He's
They
capping.
walked out toward the road, picked something up, and then went back into the woods. Now, I don't know if the creature in this picture is 7 feet tall.
It looks more like a corgi man.
Yeah,
A
it's
corgi
blurry and
man.
hard to tell.
Uh-huh.
But whatever it is, I'd be terrified if I saw that thing walking along the side of the road at night. In July of 2020,
I
there were
agree.
two other sightings of the creature about 9 miles east of Elkhorn. Again, the same description. At least 7 feet tall, walking on hind legs, covered in dark fur.
I'm surprised they don't ever attack, right? Throughout all these stories, only one of them attacked. Most of them always just ran away, or they just escaped. I would think, especially the deer one. When the guy encountered it while he was eating a deer, I would think it would be its most aggressive, just so it can protect its food. That's just me. I think that's what I
And the
think.
sightings go on, some from very reliable sources.
When I first heard about it, I probably laughed. I think I did laugh because it just seemed crazy to me that anybody would think that.
Right.
But then when you go and talk to the people and you meet them and they still seem genuinely frightened, they don't want to see it again, you know, you just can't help but believe somebody.
I mean,
like
that's the
that.
best picture so far.
I've interviewed people with 2 PhDs.
That's hilarious.
Middle-aged.
It's a furry. Come on, that's just a furry, bro. Come on. Even has a little heart right here. Get out of here.
Women who work in a factory on third shift at night, very elderly people, farmers, somebody from the Milwaukee airport with a very high clearance. It's just men, women, you name it. There's no one sort of person.
Linda Godfrey started out as a skeptic, but ended up publishing a few books about dogmen, werewolves, and the Beast of Bray Road. One of them is ominously titled, I Know What I Saw. The most compelling and frightening piece of evidence comes from the Gable film. The Gable film was discovered in 2007 in a box of junk that was sold at a yard sale. It looks like it's shot on 8mm film sometime in the 70s. It's the typical home movie, kids playing in the snow, dad chopping wood, fixing his car. Then the film takes an ominous turn. There are shots of the photographer scanning the woods for something, though it's difficult to see. There are shots of the dog who seems excited by something and appears to have caught a scent. Then we're back in the woods. The photographer's scanning the trees again and then stops on this. It seems to be an animal on all fours.
What is that?
But I can't tell what kind of animal. Then it starts walking. Then it starts running. The photographer takes off and then seems to fall down.
Yeah, I seen that video before. I thought it was like it was some type of wolf. I can't remember the name. It starts with a C. Whatever.
One of the last frames captured by the Gable film is a mouthful of teeth.
Oh,
in
he's dead.
darkness.
Oh, he's gone. He slept.
I told my mom I thought I saw a werewolf, and my mom believed me.
I was walking along a good probably 7 to 10 seconds before it had turned its head.
That thing, that was no dog. That was too big to be a dog. That thing was bigger than me.
That thing was stalking cornfields, jumping on cars, and feasting on roadkill.
Jeepers
For
creepers.
2 years, people in Elkhorn, Wisconsin whispered about a king-sized creature who roamed Bray Road.
Bray Road.
In the 19th and early 20th centuries, circuses often had sideshow performers called freaks, and one of the most popular attractions would be the bearded lady, or the dog-faced boy, or the human werewolf. These were otherwise normal people, but covered in hair from head to toe. And even though they were considered freaks, they were really just regular people with a condition called hypertrichosis. Hypertrichosis is a condition usually caused by a genetic mutation that causes hair to grow all over the body.
I've got a cousin with a unibrow.
Different affliction. Typically, hair grows everywhere, but not on the palms of the hands or soles of the feet, so a person really can look like an actual wolf man.
Wolf person.
Don't do that.
Oh, what, we don't have to virtue signal anymore?
Nah, that's going away.
Oh, thank God. That was getting old.
The first recorded case of hypertrichosis is Petrus Gonzalez. He was actually a European nobleman who attended court in several countries during the mid-16th century.
Wow,
And he acted
really?
like a perfect nobleman. And by all accounts, his children, several of whom also had hypertrichosis, were well-educated, talented, and kind. Still, they were not considered fully human. Gonzalez's marriage to Lady Catherine is considered
Beauty and the Beast. That's where it came from.
the inspiration for the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast.
Yep.
A tale is old as time. A song is old as rhyme. Beauty and the Beast.
Damn, them vocals.
Never let a Disney
different.
song go to waste.
Now,
true.
I'll admit that a human who looks like a wolf is unsettling. But you know what's worse than a human who looks like a wolf? A human that acts like a wolf.
Oh snap! Are we going where I think we're going? When like apparently when it's like a full moon, some people like have like this thing where they think they're wolves and stuff like that. Is that where we're going?
The word lycanthropy comes from King Lycan of Arcadia. In one telling of the legend, Lycan wanted to test if Zeus was really an all-knowing god, so Lycan served Zeus the flesh of Lycan's own son. Zeus was all-knowing, and he wasn't pleased with the meal.
No. Did he fill out one of those comment cards?
Nope. Zeus killed
Yelp
all of
review.
Lycan's children, all 49 of them.
Wow.
The boy
I
that
never
was
knew that.
sacrificed was brought back to life, and Lycan was transformed into a wolf.
Whoa, that's worse than a 1-star review on Grubhub.
Way worse. Clinical lycanthropy is the condition where a human believes that they are part dog or part wolf.
Whoa. This happens?
Oh, it happens. And it could be awful. In 2012, Rudy Eugene was cruising the back streets of Miami.
All right,
At some
Rudy.
point, he gets out of his car and attacks a homeless man named Ronald Papo. Eugene strips off all of his clothes and starts beating Papo until he can't move.
Wasn't he on bath salts? Is this the same guy?
Eugene then jumps on Papo and begins eating his face. And this goes on for 18 minutes before police respond. Now, the entire event is covered by a security camera, and I won't put that video here.
Thank you.
But if you really want to see it,
Nope.
You don't.
I'll put a link below.
I
So
don't
when
like seeing
police
stuff like
finally
that.
arrive, they command Rudy Eugene to get off Papo, but all he does is turn around and snarl. Police shoot him 5 times, and he dies at the scene. And the aftermath is gruesome. 75% of Ronald Papo's face was chewed off. He lost an eye, his nose, and most of his cheeks.
Jesus.
It took months of surgery to restore Papo's
so
face,
wild.
but he was still left disfigured and blind. It was assumed that Eugene had taken bath salts,
Yep.
which are said to make people act this way. But toxicology reports showed only trace amounts of THC. It's like he just snapped. Now, because Eugene died at the scene, we don't know his motive. But another case happened a few years later that could give us some clues.
Interesting. Okay. I don't
When
recall
19-year-old
any other.
Austin Haroof came back from college in the summer of 2016, something was off about him. He was constantly
oops.
ranting and screaming. He moved his bed into the garage because he thought the house was full of demons. He
Oh.
would pace around the house at night, knocking on the bedroom doors of his family, letting them know that they were safe from the demons because he was on patrol.
Oh, I don't like any of this at all.
Me either.
This is the fun, happy part of the story.
Oh, boy.
Austin's family assumed he was on drugs, but
Like they didn't call the cops or anything, or like. As soon as I hear that, I'm calling the police. I'm calling someone. I'm moving. I don't care. I'm moving out the house. I'm moving out the place. You got it, bro. Yep, it's haunted to me too.
the only evidence they had was his strange behavior. One day in August, Austin was having dinner with his family. He got angry and stormed out of the restaurant. Nobody expected what would happen next.
What'd he
Haroof's
do?
mother had a bad feeling and made a call to the police.
I don't know how to do this. My son, he's taken off. It seems like he's a little delusional.
After leaving the restaurant, Austin walked 4 miles and found his way to the home of John Stevens and his wife, Michelle Michonne. Michelle was relaxing in the garage chatting with neighbors, as she often did. John was out walking the dog. Across the street, neighbor Jeffrey Fisher heard a loud scream. He ran out of his house and saw Austin Haroof aggressively confronting Michelle. Jeff immediately starts running to help. Austin then slams Michelle onto the ground and starts beating her savagely. Jeff grabs Austin, throws him to the ground, and thinks that the situation is over. It's not. As Jeff was catching his breath, he starts feeling pain and warmth and wet all over his body. Austin had a knife. When the two men were struggling, Jeff was cut all over his body, badly. And what's worse, Austin is now getting up off the ground and coming at him with the knife. So Jeff runs back home, locks his door, and calls 911. As Jeff is waiting for the police to arrive, he hears from across the street someone snarling and another person screaming. When the police finally get there, they see a man on his back who turned out to be Michelle's husband, John. John's eyes were wide open, and he looked like he was in shock. He just kept saying, "Help me, please help me." As the police drew their guns and tasers, they saw what was happening. Austin was jamming his fingers into John's mouth,
Oh.
tearing out pieces of flesh and eating them while growling like an animal.
Wow.
And there were chunks of flesh all over the driveway. This was a mess.
Dude.
So the police tase Austin, they kick
that
him
shit's just giving
over and
chills.
over and over again, and it wasn't having any effect. Austin would stop for a second and then go back to eating John's face. A canine unit showed up with a dog, and even with the dog attacking him, Austin would keep trying to go after John's face. But then Austin finally looked up at the police and snarled at them while yelling, "Please kill me, I'm eating people." It took 5 of them, but the police were finally able to subdue Austin. John and Michelle
Yo, this is insane.
died in their driveway. And again, it was assumed that Austin was on a drug like bath salts or flakka. But once again, the only drug found in his system was a small amount of THC. Later, Austin would recount what happened, but
As Stephen A. Smith said, stay off the weed.
But his story made no sense. It involved demons and witches and dark figures in the shadows. Philip Resnick, a psychiatrist, was brought in to assess Austin's mental state. In his 38-page report, Resnick believed Austin was suffering from clinical lycanthropy. In other words, he thought he was a werewolf.
This dude was living in Skyrim.
Stories about dogmen and werewolves exist in every culture and go back to the beginnings of those cultures. And it's easy to see why. There are actual physical and mental conditions that can make humans look and act like wolves. But what about the sightings? Unfortunately, the only photos we have are blurry, and most of them are hoaxes. The Gable film is amazing, but that's also a hoax.
Really?
When Mike Agrusa heard Steve Cook's song, The Legend, he thought it would be fun to create a mini horror
It makes sense why they would hoax all this.
film to go along with the story. Agrusa contacted Cook, they partnered up and distributed the film on the internet. And of course, it took off. And when I started working on this episode, I wasn't a believer. If you heard my live stream, you know I don't like to cover cryptids because there's so little physical and photographic evidence. We're stuck having to take the word of eyewitnesses who often seem questionable.
Trust me, bro.
Right. But when journalists like Linda Godfrey go from cryptid skeptic to cryptid believer, I reevaluate my position. And when sheriffs and deputies put their careers and reputations on the line by filling out official reports about werewolves, I reevaluate my position. I still think most of these stories are mistakes or false memories or flat out hoaxes.
Yeah, that's
but not all of them.
It's false memory. Most of the time, it could be false memory. That's what I always believe. Well, there isn't. Actually, never mind. I'll just continue on.
Can be explained. And for me personally, that's my favorite way to end an episode of the Y-Files, is by reevaluating my position, being ready to believe something new. So if you're that night watchman or that farmer or small town deputy who has a picture on his phone that you can't explain and you're afraid to send it anywhere, send it to me. I'm ready to believe.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Just send it on the internet. Put it on
Thank
the
you so
internet.
much for hanging out with me
We
today.
got Reddit
My name
these
is
days.
AJ. That's Hecklefish. This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything today, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, comment, share. I know, but it
All that
really
good
helps
stuff.
the channel. And like most topics we cover on the channel, today's topic was a recommendation from the last live stream. So if there's a story you'd like to see or learn more about, go to theyfiles.com/tips. I can't do all the stories, but I read all the submissions. And special thanks to our patrons who make this channel possible. I'm amazed by your generosity, and I am grateful for your support. And if you'd like to support the Y-Files, consider becoming a member on Patreon or grabbing something from the Y-Files store.
Hey, we got that Hecklefish underwear out there yet?
Not yet.
Nah, that's too bad. You can be a spicier meatball.
That's one way to describe it.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
that's going to do it. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated.
Hey, that's such a kind message. Yo, great video. Great video. It was such a blast to go through. It was such a blast to go through. When it comes to stories like that, it's just so much fun. It truly is, man. It truly is. But anyway, I always think it's false memories, though, for sure. I feel like people think they see something, and then it turns out it's not true. It's like me personally, I think I have this false memory because like when I was coming out of the gym one day, and I was getting in the car, and there was like the boomerang UFO, right? There was like a boomerang UFO that used to go around, and I always thought I saw it, but I feel like it's a false memory because I remember there was like a boomerang shaped like thing flying over with like I think it was like one, two, like I think it was like five lights altogether. One, two, two on each side, and then one in the middle. So that's five. And so I saw it fly over, but I'm pretty sure it was a plane. But the way I remember it, it seems like it was like the boomerang UFO. And so, it's always one of those things where like a lot of people have false memory, and I include myself in that. But anyway, great video.